Okay, let's continue on to the next page. Okay. So, this one is on fractions. Something I'm sure you will all appreciate. Let me zoom out a little more. Is being able to solve something like a multiplication problem that deals with fractions in the calculator. Remember, do not write on this. Okay. So, we're just going to follow our directions. We need to enter, and I'm going to clear this because it just bugs me to have information from other problems. That's up to you. Okay, you don't have to clear it every time. So first I'm going to press the ND button. It doesn't say anything about second. So ND, because I need just a regular fraction, 2/9. We should be getting pretty good at this point. And then, 2, and then it says down, it's showing down, and then 9. And then I have to press to the right. And then times, so that's what it says next, times. And then I went 3/7, so just ND. Okay, 3, down, 7. Okay. It says I can press enter at this point. So let's just try it. Let's see if we actually have to get over to the right. Okay. And it works just fine. Okay. Remember, there are other ways. This is not all. These are not the only way for each problem to be solved using the calculator, and you can explore some more on your own later. This is just to help you for now. Okay, so when we multiply, we get 2/21, and remember that is in simplest form, and the correct answer was 2/21. Okay. So in order to perform calculations with mixed numbers, we have to use the second key and then the ND so that we're getting to that UND above it. Okay, so we have 12 and 5/6. So second ND, so we're getting that mixed number, 12 to the right, 5/6, and then I'm pressing to the right, and minus, oops, I'm not following the directions. I'm supposed to be doing that. Okay, so 5/6 to the right, minus, okay, 1, there's a 1, whoops, oh, it said I can press second now, okay, I can, second, ND, and so it's giving me the 1 and then I'm pressing 1, down, 2, and then it says I can just do enter. So 34/3, and there is my correct answer. And remember what we just learned, we can also take that improper fraction that is in simplest form, but we don't always want an improper fraction. Our answers, sometimes we want a mixed number, so I can just press second and X10 to get it in mixed number form, and I get 11 1/3. Okay, just so you can have it in either form. Okay, just depending on what the problem is asking you, especially if it's multiple choice and you need something specific. Okay, so you're asked to solve several problems. Okay, we'll do 2 of them together. Okay, so again, I'm going to clear it because it bothers me. N over D, 7/48 to the right, times ND, 4, down, 56 to the right, enter, 1/96. Remember, we're not writing this answer on here. Don't write it on here. Stop right now if you started and don't do it. Okay, and write it number 10 on your answer sheet. And the answer was, under solve, number 10, and it was 1/96. Okay, be careful about the numbering. And notice this one's going from 10 to 10 again. It's just because it was a different section. and I picked and chose the sections that we were doing. Okay, so number 11, I need a mixed number, so second in D gives me that mixed number. 3 to the right, 5 down, 8 to the right, minus in D, 5 down, 6, and apparently I can press enter, 67 over 24. Again, I am not writing it on here. 67 over 24. 60, oops, it's a fraction, I don't need to write that big. 67 over 24. Now that's an improper fraction. I could also, but I'm just gonna be looking that you did what showed up in your calculator when you typed that. But we can get some extra practice there if we get finished early. 2 and then 19 over 24. 2 and then 19 over 24. And when I was chiming this for y'all, I did do both. So there might be a little bit of time for you depending on how fast you are. But right now, go ahead and pause the video. You have 12 through 18 to do in this section. So you're gonna finish off this page. And you have 6 minutes to complete those problems. Okay, let's go on to our next sheet. Next page, page 3. Should number these. Okay. So, we are dealing with exponents now. The x squared button, this button only works for numbers to the power of 2, or squared is another way to say it, or raised to the second power. Again, another way to say it. And we do need to know how to talk about squaring numbers. Okay? So, here's our example. We want to do 1.2 squared. So, in my calculator, I'm going to do 1.2, and then I'm going to press the x squared button and enter. And I get 1.44, just like I was supposed to. Okay? So we'll do 17, make sure we're writing in, or number 1, sorry, which is 17 squared. So 17 x squared, enter, 289. Make sure we're writing it in the right place on our answer key. Here it says exponents, and our answer was 289. Okay. Go ahead and do 2, 3, and 4. You have 1 minute to do 2, 3, and 4. Pause the video. Okay. So, this button, the caret button is what we call it, works for all powers. So anything other than 2, or you could use this button all the time, even if it was 2. So let's do our example. 7, caret key. Whoops, so where you can see it. Blinking box, exponent box, 4. And notice it's blinking at the top. That might become a problem later, but it's just we can press the enter button now and it works just fine. And it gives us our answer, 2,401. Okay, so let's do number 5 together. Make sure we're writing in the correct place. 11, caret key, 3, enter, gives me 1,311. So this was number 5. And exponents, 1,331. Okay. just an FYI, just let's look at this real quick. And I want you to do it on your own, but you have the wording, find 6 cubes, so you do have to know those wordings. On number 17, it asks you to find out what x is, and you can do that by a guess and check. It won't take you very long to guess and check a few numbers in the calculator. And same with number 18, what number raised to the 3rd power is 64. Again, it won't take you too much guessing and checking in your calculator and time to be able to find what x or what number that would actually be. There are ways to figure it out, but we're just gonna guess and check at this point. Okay, so you have 5 minutes to finish those problems. Numbers 6 through 18, remember, you're on your answer sheet, exponents, so you're finishing this section. Go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so let's go on to the next page. Page 4. Okay, so we're looking at the basic arithmetic. To perform basic arithmetic, enter numbers and operation symbols using the standard order of operations. So what's great about these calculators is it will go ahead and it will do all of your order of operations for you. So here we have 8 times a -4 plus 7, and it will do it for you. You do not have to worry about putting it in the correct order. Okay, so 8, though it is actually in the correct order, times -4, okay, and oh, sorry, I'm supposed to be looking at this. We don't know this yet necessarily. So here's my 8 times negative. Here's your negative button. Oops, here's your negative button right down here. -4 plus 7, and then it says enter, which gives me a -25, and that was what my answer was supposed to be. Okay, so again, let's make sure we're putting in the numbers in the right place. Let's do number 19. Whoops, so you can see it, that would be great. -17 plus a -9. And I always want to, anytime I'm using my calculator, always make sure that I'm thinking about what should the number be. I know that this number should be a negative number, and I know that it should be a number that has a greater absolute value than 17, because I'm going to be adding those two things together. And I do get a -26. So just make sure that your answers make sense. Okay, so basic arithmetic, and it said to solve. That was number 19. And so that gave me a -26. We'll do one more together, just make sure. Okay, so number 20. Some of you would ask, okay, is this a negative sign or a minus sign? And I would always tell you that they basically do the same thing. They both mean take it away. However, when you're entering it into the calculator, -30, if you enter a negative sign here instead of a minus sign, and then do 42, because we've said they mean the same thing, to take away. In this calculator, it does not recognize that, and so when I press enter, here's a message that you may have gotten while you were doing your practice already. Syntax error, which means it is not recognizing or understanding what you have put in, and a lot of times that happens to us accidentally, okay? And so I'm just gonna press clear to get back, and it is even blinking over what I need to change. I didn't know it did that. Okay, we're gonna test that theory at some point. So I'm gonna change it to a minus sign. Notice it's now blinking over the 4. So if I press another button, it's gonna change that. So I'm just gonna use my scroll, and I'm gonna scroll it to the right, and I'm gonna press enter, and now I have my answer, -72. So again, remember, we're writing on our answer sheet. Number 20 was a -72, and that does make sense. I had a negative $30 and I spent another $42. So now I'm $72 in debt. I owe $72. Okay, so basic arithmetic. You have 2 minutes to finish 21 through 24. Pause the video. Okay, let's go on to the next thing, which is our order of operations. Okay. So here's our example. And the best thing to do is always to look at your problem and make sure it looks the same once you plugged it in. So 8 minus, open parentheses, your parentheses is right here, 3. I need it to be cubed, so I've got to do this caret. It's blinking right here to show me I'm doing what I'm supposed to. I'm pressing to the right because this time it does matter. I'm not just pressing enter. I need to enter something else. And if I don't press to the right, where it's blinking, it's going to continue to right there. So if I did divided by 9, I would be doing 3 and then 3 cubed divided by 9. Okay, so we need to press, actually that sounded right. So we needed to press the right arrow, so now it's that big box. Divided by 9, and then it ended the parentheses. So here's the parentheses. Okay, and then plus 4. And I'm just gonna make sure, does it look the same? Is it all the same? It does look the same, so I'm going to press enter and I get 9. And that is what my answer should have been. And unfortunately, I don't have that part. Okay, so number 25, we'll do one together. Okay, so I have 51 minus, remember this is going to have to be a minus sign here. Okay, if you're confused, if you don't know for sure, try it. Syntax error will tell you, hopefully. Okay, open parentheses, 2 plus 3. Then I'm closing the parentheses, and I've got to cube everything that's in the parentheses is what that's saying. So, caret key, 3 equals a negative 74. Remember, let's make sure we're writing it in the correct place. We're no longer on that first page, so we got to go to the next page where it says order of operations, and we're on number 25, and the answer is a negative 74. Okay, so you have three minutes to finish this little section of order of operations, which is the last bit of this page. Okay, pause the video. Okay, the next part asks us to do fractions and decimals, and it's talking about a toggle key. So this toggle key can be beneficial to different things. So we talked about a fraction and decimals, and when we talked about it, we said that we could use this key right here, meaning we needed to press the second button and then the table button to get it to go from a fraction to a decimal or a decimal to a fraction. And that is one way to convert from fractions to decimals. Okay. However, this toggle key, which is right here, okay, it is it takes and it changes results between fractions and decimals, and then exact square root and decimal, and exact pi and decimal. So anything in there, it will do a bunch of different changes. And if you press it once and it doesn't work, you can press it again and see what happens. And then you might find out that maybe that's not the button that you want to use. Remember, it's pressing buttons. It doesn't necessarily take a whole lot of time. So if you try something and it fails, just try again. It's fine. Okay, so here's our example, 9/10. We're always going to start with our example and try it out. And it tells us to first press N/D because it's a normal fraction. So I'm pressing 9, and then it says down 1, 0, 9/10, and then it says enter. And then it says to press the toggle button. Okay, which gives me 0.9. So I'm changing that to a decimal, and so it changed to a decimal. You can also press it to the right. So if I had, let's put it in again, 9/10. If I just pressed it here and then enter, I get that syntax error message again. However, if I, let's see, does that work? Can I clear? No, it's clearing the whole thing. Ending 9/10. If I press it to the right and then I press my toggle button and enter, it will work the same way. So either way is perfectly fine, however you want to do it. And so if I press that toggle key again, I'm going to go back to the fraction, back to the decimal, back to the fraction, decimal, fraction, so on and so forth. Okay, so on this, it doesn't actually say what you're supposed to do on this, but it does tell you in your packet. It says on numbers 11-15, you're going to write it as a decimal. Okay, so we want to change this to a decimal. Okay, so second ND, so I get that mixed number, 3 and 3/8. And then I guess I'll do it the way they showed us. Enter gives me 27/8 is the improper fraction for it. Or I can change that 27/8, press that toggle key again to the fraction, which is 3.375. And so I'm writing it as a decimal. Make sure you're writing it in the answer key. 3.375. 3 and 375 thousandths. Okay. Go ahead and finish numbers 12-15. You have 2 minutes. Pause the video. Okay, so let's do 16-20, which says to write it as a fraction. So that's our directions for this. Write each decimal as a fraction. So here's the decimal, 0.315. And it said we're trying to use the toggle key, so I'm just going to press the toggle key and enter, and there's my fraction, 63/100. Okay, and so I'm going to write that in here, 63/200. Remember, it's already in simplest form, so there's nothing else that I can do there. Let me zoom out a little bit. Okay. Okay, so then I'm just going to do one more with you. 9.08, toggle key, enter, and I get 227/25. 227/25. Okay, but notice that's an improper fraction, so I could change it depending on what I needed to that mixed number. Remember, second x10n, so it could be this, or it could be 9 and then 2 and 2/25, which that number makes a lot more sense than this number right here, and that's a lot of the times why we do change it. Okay, so you have 2 minutes to finish 18 through 19. 18 through 19. Go ahead and pause the video. Okay. So the next part says, hint, change these fractions to decimals first and then compare. So we want to compare the fractions, and then we want to order from least to greatest. Oh, I should have those directions on the answer key. I guess I don't. Thought I did. Okay. So for this one, I'm just going to look at the answer key. Compare fractions and order from least to greatest. Okay, and it said hint to change it to a decimal first. So we need to think about what we have learned to change it to a decimal first. And we were just practicing with the toggle key. So that fraction, 4, 7, toggle it. Okay, so that gives me, and I'm writing on my answer sheet, not on the packet, 0.571. As long as I go about 3 spaces or 3 numbers to the thousandths place, usually pretty good. The 1 has a 4 behind it. The 4 is not going to round it up. Okay. And then I've got this fraction, 6 over 11, and then toggle enter. So that gives me 0.545, and notice. And here's a really good way as well to look at it. So I wrote my numbers here because sometimes that is very helpful, but it's actually more helpful in this case, at least when I'm only doing 2 numbers, to look at it here. So 0 in the ones place, they're the same. Okay, and then 5 in the tenths place is the same. So then I have to look at the next place value, and the 4 is smaller than the 7, and so therefore the 4 is less. And so that was the 6/11. So the 6/11 is less. So 4/7 is greater than 6/11. Okay, go ahead and do numbers 22 and 23. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead and pause the video. Okay, order from least to greatest. So again, we had that hint. Let's change them. We need them in decimal form. That's going to help us the most. Okay. So 0.38, and then that 6 is going to round that 4 up. So it's going to be 385. Now this one, I only can fit this much on my screen, 2 numbers. So I probably do want to actually write this one out. So ND 4 over 9 and toggle key. Okay, so that gives me 0.4. And I'm going to write all 3 of them out. Even though I know it's repeating on forever, it helps me to be able to compare. And you might even want to write them one on top of the other. That might help you compare as well. So ND 5 over 11. Remember, we could do enter and then toggle. That will work too. And so that gives me 0.45454. And that 5 would round that 4 up to a 5. So if I stopped right there. Okay. So we wanted from least to greatest. So the least number here, they all have 0, but in the tenths place, this one has a 3. 3 is less than 4. And so this one is going to be my least. And there's a note for you at the bottom on the other page, which I thought was here too. That says to double check that your answers are written as fractions, because they should be. And so our least is 5/13, comma. And then we're comparing these two. So the tenths place is the same. I need to look at the hundredths place. The 4 is less, so therefore the 4/9 comes next. And then finally the 5/11. So it just happened to go in order on that one. Okay, again, actually, I'll give you 4. You have 4 minutes to do 25 and 26. Go ahead and pause the video.